Ferrari have been caught hiding a hidden issue within the SF-25, which has plagued in equal measure both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc across the entirety of the 25 season to date. It is an issue that revolves entirely around the power steering of their SF-25 wheels. This issue plagues them in a certain speed range of corners, which comes into effect in qualifying when the drivers have to extract the most out of the SF-25. But let's talk about the issue at hand in itself and the actual speed range of corner it most affects them in. Power steering was first introduced into Formula 1 in the first half of the 1990s, and throughout the next 35 years, the systems have become more and more increasingly refined, with the goal, of course, of transmitting the most natural feedback possible to all of the drivers, and of course to help aid them through the high-speed corners when the car is loaded with lateral G-forces, as this was a heavy strain on the drivers pre-power steering. Now, in Ferrari's case, this issue that they currently have in 2025 revolves around when drivers start to push in the high-speed sections of a circuit, where lateral Gs put a strain on the system. And that's why we see on the majority of times in 2025 that transition period from Q2 to Q3 on numerous occasions really haven't found any improvement in Q3 over their Q2 times in general. And of course, by the time of Q3, the fuel is at the minimum, the limit of which it can be in. And of course, that means the car is more agile, and therefore every little input you put into the steering wheel is going to have that much more of an importance. And we've even had some cool down room footage during a podium celebration with Charles Leclerc mentioning that. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, maybe we need to do something for our steering wheel in those conditions.
So slippery?
What?
Your steering wheel?
My steering wheel is so heavy.
Heavy?
Yeah, we have no assistance.
Now, what does Leclerc mean by the power steering being too heavy and giving no assistance? Well, I believe what he's mentioning, it is of course still to do with high-speed corners, and power steering was introduced to help the drivers cope with the lateral G forces put through in such high-speed corners. And what he's really saying is maybe that the steering that they currently have on the SF-25 is not giving anywhere near the assistance both he and Hamilton would want out of the current system, and therefore they're looking to improve upon this aspect. It could also be a secondary situation happening where it is two cases. One, it is of course still not giving them the assistance they need with regarding going into these high-speed corners, and the steering is still too heavy for them. But it could be a secondary mission of assistance in terms of not giving the right levels of feedback through the steering wheel, the sensations both drivers want out of it. And of course, a side effect of that is they're having to put too much, maybe a lock on the steering wheel. They're overshooting the corner ever so slightly, putting more slip angle into the tyres than they may naturally want. And just going a little bit further offline than they would want to, like through Maggots and Beckett's, that section of the Silverstone circuit. If you're offline by millimeters, it's going to compromise you for the next sequence of corners, as well as that straight with the DRS. So you're forever losing time in this area. And thankfully for the Ferrari team, it is something that can be worked on and fixed. And they really need to do that, particularly as this is an issue which is going to continue within 2026 and beyond. So if they can fix it this season, it is better that they do so, or at least get everything in place so they don't have this issue for 2026 and beyond. Now, this isn't the first time you will have heard drivers talk about issues with their steering wheel, or rather the feel they get out of the steering wheel. We have two previous examples to go off of from two very high profile and well known and liked drivers, namely in Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso, who on separate occasions within the Aston Martin period for Vettel and the Alpine period for Alonso have made problems very much known to the general public with regards to power steering and the kind of sensitivities they're getting out of it. Now, in those two drivers' cases, it was more the feel they were getting out of the steering wheel with regards to their own driving style. It was less of a kind of overarching issue, but they just were rather not getting what they wanted out of it in terms of sensations and feelings. Now, as we now know what the issue is, what is that the sort of length of time period we can expect a issue of this sort of manner actually get resolved? How quickly can Ferrari get on top and introduce an upgrade to solve this power steering issue, essentially? Now, while Leclerc has not specified what the issues are, he has said that it is fixable and they have upgrades in the pipeline to solve the problem. So it is very much a matter of time rather than if they can solve it. Now, the issue may not be fully solved for 2025, but they can make quite a big headway into solving the issue. So by the time 2026 comes around, as they are of course already well and truly within the working window of maybe starting to finalize maybe the first iteration, the first package for the 2026 cars, this is something they will have to incorporate into the steering wheel and rather the power steering of the new 2026 car to make sure they have no issues outside of just making that car as quick as possible. And if Ferrari can manage to do that, it should give them a little bit in terms of their drivers and the assistants through high-speed corners, a lot more feel, and they can get a lot more confidence in what they're doing within these sections of a circuit. Particularly if you think about it, we've got Spa coming up, an abundance of high-speed corners for Ferrari to contend with for their drivers. So it is quite important that even if they can't fully fix it this year, they get on top of the majority of the issue in time for 2026 to hit that head on. And I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have liked this breakdown of the Ferrari issue, hit the like button in the video. And of course, if you're new here on F1 Unraveled, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for all future content such as this. Right, enjoy the week, and I will see you all throughout this summer shutdown with more content. Catch you later.